else commands all the hosts of heaven? Who else could make every king bow down? Who else can whisper and darkness trembles? Only a holy God. What other beauty demands such praises? What other splendor outshines the sun? What other majesty rules with justice? Only a holy God. Come and behold him, the one and the only. Cry out, sing holy, forever a holy God. Come and worship the holy God. What other glory consumes like fire? What other power can raise the dead? What other name remains undefeated? Only a holy God. Come and behold him, the one and the only. Cry out, sing holy, forever a holy God. Come and worship the holy God. Who else could rescue me from my failing? Who else would offer his only son? Who else invites me to call him Father? Only a holy God. Only a holy God. Come and behold him, the one and the only. Cry out, sing holy, forever a holy God. Come and worship the holy God. Come and behold him, the one and the only. Cry out, sing holy, forever a holy God. Come and worship the holy God. Come and worship the holy God.
Are you a collector? By that I mean, if I were to come to your house, would I find a collection of something? Maybe you like to collect fancy pens or coffee mugs, or maybe you like to get those little magnets that are in the shapes of the different states. You've got a collection going of those. Maybe one time when you were younger, you used to have a postage stamp collection. Do people still do that? They might, I suppose. Maybe that was you. For the longest time, I collected giant mugs. Now, this is not a giant mug, but this is still a pretty good size one. I've had this one for quite some time. In fact, I found a picture of my mug collection. Now, this picture was taken probably 15 years ago, back when I was at Bethany Camp. You can see this Broncos mug that I'm holding. You can see it in the picture there on the bottom shelf. We're over on the side, and I showed you that mug just so you can get a sense of how big those other mugs are. The biggest ones were like 100-ounce mugs, and those are the kind that you go to a gas station and you buy one, and then you can fill it up for the first time for free, and then it's cheaper to refill it than practically just buying regular fountain drink. And I used to take those with me, and the joke was, like, if I was traveling, I would know which gas stations I was going to go by, and I would bring those mugs with me, and then, we'd stop for gas, and I'd sort through the mugs that I had and take that in, and then I kept those mugs with me for the longest time. They moved with me to every Lifeway office that I ever had until I finally moved back here. Then I was like, you know what? I don't have to keep carrying these around anymore. My collection had grown. They're just gathering dust. So I got rid of them, although I let my kids each pick one to keep, although I'm not sure they even know where they are anymore. But actually, you know what else you can see in that picture? I don't collect the mugs anymore, but in that picture you see I started a golf ball collection. And now I still have that. In fact, here's how my golf ball collection looks now. And I've just got a bunch of different golf balls from places where I have played golf. I enjoy doing that. And a lot of golf courses will sell a golf ball with their logo on it. And so if I find one there that I don't have, I will buy one. I've got a few other random logo ones there as well. I don't know when my golf ball collection will be complete. Maybe someday I'll buy one and think that was finally the last one. Now it's done. Now I'm content. I start with that lighthearted illustration to introduce this question. Have you ever searched for satisfaction in something, and maybe you've achieved it, but then you are still left wanting more? Or you thought, boy, if I just had more of fill in the blank, then I'd be content. Have you ever thought that? Of course you have. I mean, we all do that. In the search for contentment, that thing that we would put in the blank, it can take a lot of different forms. Maybe for somebody it's, boy, if I just had more money in the bank account, then I'd be content. Or if my kids did this, or if my kids achieved this, then I would be finally satisfied. Or we look for our contentment in our relationships, or we strive to just be free of anxiety and worry, and so we try to control the situations around us, to try to be in control of the things that are happening, and that's how we search for our contentment. Or we look for our satisfaction in just our freedom, to be able to do what I want when I want. I'm my own boss, right? Or maybe we look for our contentment in just our being comfortable. We don't like to see change. As we strive for all of these things to be content and satisfied, or let me put a finer point on it, we are all worshiping something. Now, this song, as we continue this series, the Theology we sing, if you missed the intro to this series last week, I'd encourage you to go back on YouTube and take a look at that. But in this song that we just heard, Only a Holy God, we are given an invitation to worship. That's what's happening here in this song. We sing, "Come and behold him." Come and worship. Well, who is it that this song is calling us to worship? The first three verses paint a picture of a God who is set apart, that there is no one like him. And it's highlighting some of the main themes that we know about God, that he's in charge, he's powerful, that he's beauty, he's magnificent. Let's talk about a few of the lines from these verses that we see in these first three verses that we'll sing. We ask the question, this song is full of kind of reflective questions. We ask the question, who else could make every king bow down? Proverbs chapter 21 verse 1 says, a king's heart is like channeled water in the Lord's hand. He directs it wherever he chooses. You ever been swimming? Probably so. And you've been maybe around some kids or even some adults who are horsing around a little bit. And what do they like to do? They like to splash each other, right? They can just whip their hand across the surface of the water or push the water with both hands. And it's pretty easy to get the water to go where you want it to go, right? We just, the water goes that way, water goes that way. My dad used to do this thing, where he'd get the water and kind of cup it in his hands and squeeze his hands together, and it would go shooting out across at somebody. You ever seen something like that? But you've probably done that yourself. And man, it's just easy to channel the water where we want it to go. The water doesn't resist what we're trying to do. It's really easy to watch the condition of the world and its leaders around us and get discouraged, isn't it? We think, has God lost control? Has he stopped paying attention? Has he stopped caring? Doesn't he see what's happening? No. God plans and directs and chooses and allows every action that we see. And even though we don't always understand it, the Bible promises that he does it for his glory and our eternal and eventual good. The kings of this world are some of the most powerful people on the planet. But God can and eventually will make every one of them take a knee before him. God directs the hearts of the kings. Who else can do that? No one. We ask this question, who else can whisper and darkness trembles? 1 John 1:5, this is the message we have heard from him and declare to you. God is light, and there is absolutely no darkness in him. But there is something about the dark that can be terrifying. Think about like haunted houses, or scary movies, or the Batman movies, right? I mean, why is it that you never see those take place? You never see Batman defeating criminals when the skies are blue, the sun's up there, a couple clouds in the sky, and birds are chirping. The movies never happen there, right? No, the scary parts always take place, or Batman is bringing terror down on the bad guys when it is dark. The thing about darkness is that we are absolutely powerless to do anything about it, right? I mean, we always have to have some sort of outside help to defeat the darkness. You've got to have a flashlight. There's got to be a light switch. The sun has to come. Like just me versus the dark, and the dark is going to win. And in the Bible, the darkness is used to represent sin and death. We're drawn to darkness. John chapter 3, verse 19 says that people loved darkness rather than light. But everyone is powerless against the darkness except for one. Only one can simply whisper and make the darkness tremble. Who else can do that? No one. What other beauty demands such praises? The song uses the word demands, which reminded me of Psalm chapter 29, verse 2. Ascribe to the Lord the glory due his name. Worship the Lord in the splendor of his holiness. I'm equating the words there, demands, with due. If you go on reading Psalm 29, we actually just preached on Psalm 29 back in the series Soul Balm from the Psalms earlier this fall. You can see this description of a thunderstorm, and you see phrases in Psalm 29 like this. The voice of the Lord is above the waters. The God of glory thunders. Voice of the Lord is in power. The voice of the Lord is in splendor. The voice of the Lord breaks the cedars of Lebanon, these giant trees. He makes the mountains look like newborn animals. And the voice of the Lord flashes flames of fire. And Psalm 29 ends with this crescendo of, and in his temple all will cry glory. When one has an encounter with the beauty of God, there is this response of praise and giving glory that is owed to God because he is that great. He demands that praise. He is due that praise. That's what we're singing about here in this song. Who else is worthy of such a response? Who else? No one. What other majesty rules with justice? Psalm 89, verse 14 says, righteousness and justice are the foundation of your throne. There is this complete and utter fairness in the way that people are dealt with. Acts chapter 17, verse 31 reminds us that he has set a day when he's going to judge the world in righteousness by the man he has appointed. God is the perfect judge. What other ruler, what other kingdom can say that? I mean, some might say it, right? Some certainly might aspire to it, but nobody else is. Why? Because you're dealing with imperfect humans. Spend any time watching the news or engaging with the court system or just reading history from Cain and Abel up until yesterday, right? Injustice abounds everywhere. In fact, if you're a parent, you don't even have to read the news to know that. Why? Because your kids are constantly reminding you, that's not fair. You didn't make a fair decision. And maybe you absolutely tried your best. Maybe you did get it just a little bit wrong. Probably a little bit of both at times. But friends, there is only one king, one ruler who rules with perfect justice. Who else can make that claim? No one. What other power can raise the dead? Let me read that verse again that we just read, Acts 17:31. Because he has set a day when he's going to judge the world in righteousness by the man he has appointed. He has provided proof of this to everyone. How? By raising him from the dead. Now, in the context of this verse, what's happening here is that Paul is pleading with a group of people to turn and repent of their sins. And this group worshipped every known god that they could. They had altars everywhere. They even had an altar to the unknown God, just in case they missed one or weren't aware of one. And Paul says, listen, there's a God worthy of your worship. But he commands people now to repent. And to prove his point, there's going to come a day of reckoning. And you know that day of reckoning is coming because God proved it by raising Jesus Christ from the dead. There is no greater power than that. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 54 and 55 say, death has been swallowed up in victory. Where death is your victory? Where death is your sting? There's something about being able to bring somebody back from the dead that nobody else has. Only one. Who else has that power? No one. What other name remains undefeated? Right? God has gone up against every conceivable thing. He's gone up against kings. He's gone up against nations. He's gone up against false gods and their religions. He's gone up against people who have shook their fist in his face. He's gone up against nature. Right, the wind and the waves. He's gone up against Satan. And yes, he's gone up against sin and death. And what happens? Every single time, God comes out the victor. There is no one who can match his power, his wisdom, his beauty, his control. God is undefeated, now and always. Who else can you say that about? Who else can make that claim? Who else can say that? No one. So, who is it? Who else remains undefeated? Who else can raise the dead? Who else rules with perfect justice? Who else can make the darkness tremble with a mere whisper? Who else will make every king bow down? And the answer is only a holy God. We sing in the chorus, come and behold him, the one and the only. Cry out, sing holy, forever a holy God. Come and worship the holy God. The goal of this song, the theology that we're singing here, is to point out and highlight the idea that there is no one else like our God. No one else who can satisfy like God does. No one else who can give us the contentment that we are all longing and searching for like God can. He stands alone over everything that ever has been or will be, and he is forever. The song says. He is unchanging, the same yesterday, today, and forever. And there is nothing that compares to him. He is incomparable. That's what the song keeps saying over and over. Who else? Who else? Who else? And this song we sing to remind ourselves of that truth. To prod you and me to put God in his proper place. Where we're all going to worship something. We are all going to chase after something. Chase after the one and the only. Worship him. And once we do that, and we remember who God is, and we remember his power and his beauty, and that he is the one and only, we sing verse 4. Who else could rescue me from my failing? Who else would offer his only Son? Who else invites me to call him Father? Only a holy God. You know, the more important someone gets, right, the more powerful they get, the more distinguished, or the more famous someone gets, it's kind of like the more inaccessible they become. Right, and I'm painting with a broad brush here, but in general, if someone's pretty famous, you just can't walk right up to them, right? I don't know if you've been watching football lately, if you follow anything that's been going on there. There's a famous singer, Taylor Swift. Maybe you've heard that name. She has begun dating one of the Kansas City Chiefs players, and so she's been coming to a lot of the games. And so this is like two giant worlds, the music world and the sports world, colliding. And I'm surprised we've survived after all this, but that's what's happening here. And when they show Taylor Swift on TV, because she's very famous, where is she at? Like, she's not down in the fans with the common person, right? No, she's always behind the glass in this private little box, and you couldn't just go right up to her. And in fact, she was there with the Travis Kelce is the player that she's dating. He has a brother named Jason who also plays football, but he was at the game as well because his team had gotten eliminated. So he's in this suite as well. This is in Buffalo this last weekend. He's in there as well. And there was a clip that I saw where he jumps out of his little box. They had opened the window. He jumps out and he kind of goes down among the fans. And everybody's just going crazy. It's like, wow, here's this famous football player down here with us. Right, and so everybody's just kind of going nuts, and then what does he do? He just goes and he jumps back in and he goes back in. Now, of course, I get like for safety reasons and stuff, like you would fear for like Taylor Swift's safety if she's got to kind of be behind there. I get all that. But the idea being that the more famous somebody becomes, the more inaccessible they might get, right? The more layers you have to go through to get to that person. But beloved, hear me when I say this. What makes this so amazing about God is that the one and the only wants a relationship with you. John chapter 10, verse 3 says, the gatekeeper opens it for him. The sheep hear his voice. He calls his own sheep by name, and he leads them out. Jesus knows your name. Paul says in Ephesians 1, he predestined us to be adopted as sons through Jesus Christ for himself, according to the good pleasure of his will. Who else could rescue me? Who else could make that payment for my sin? Who else knows everything there is to know about me? My failings, my secrets, my troubles, my pain, my weaknesses. Who knows all of these things and infinitely more, and yet still calls me by name? Who else knows all of these things and infinitely more, and yet still invites me to call him Father? Only a holy God. Come and behold him. Come and worship the holy God. There is no one else like him. He is set apart from everything else that has ever been, yet he invites you to have a relationship with him. If you've been searching for satisfaction and contentment anywhere else, now is the time to turn your focus back to God. There is none like him. There is nothing that can satisfy like he can. Spend time just meditating on the words of this song this week. Spend time in awe of him. Spend time in worship of him. Spend time in prayer and reading of his word, communing with the one who wants you to call him Father. Maybe you add this song to your playlist from last week of He Will Hold Me Fast. Just worshiping Jesus. Spending intentional moments one-on-one with your Heavenly Father.
Who else commands all the hosts of heaven? Who else could make every king bow down? Who else can whisper and darkness